Are now we are recording. Awesome. That's okay. So we're working on those things. I'm not gonna sit here and like blow smoke at all of you and be like, so we'll have this all figured out. Like come April or May, we're in good shape. Like there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen. There's a lot of alignment that needs to happen. There's a lot of education that needs to happen, but and at times it is really painful, at least for me, but we're doing the work.
Jeff, I just wanted to say that like you skimmed over something that I think would be really is really worth emphasizing here, which is you were talking about like ways to contribute and stuff in response to David, and I think one thing worth remembering is that a lot of the ways to help the community members who are contributing stuff at Facebook or contributing stuff so that their home media server works is the same, right? It's like, if I send a PR, when will it get reviewed? Like, can I have some guarantee that it won't fall through the cracks? If I file an issue because I don't know how to fix it, but I'm willing to learn, will it ever get looked at? Like, I'm in the PR triage meetings each week, and I can tell you that like we are slowly getting through the PR backlog. I mean, really slowly. Like some weeks we actually get further behind, and then some weeks we'll kind of catch up to where we were last week, and some weeks we'll catch up to this week and get a little bit more done, and we get like a little bit of the backlog done. And some weeks we just started the oldest stuff because we're like, well, shit, man, it's been 3 months since any PRs older than, last December have been looked at. Let's just start backwards. I don't think we've ever looked at issues in the last year, just because we just don't have time. And so, I think that whether like, and if you're working for Apple or Facebook or Disney or whoever, like it's pretty easy to like go to your CSM and be like, hey, get someone to look at my PR. But if you're Joe Schmo and you file an issue and you're like, I kind of know Ruby, but I don't know the code base that well, and I'm willing to fix this bug or add this thing myself. I just want to know that it's going to be even accepted, or that that idea is remotely acceptable before I start. Like someone's got to look at that issue, and if it takes 9 months, like I've probably moved on with my life. And so I think that a lot of the thing, and you sort of brushed on this in what you were saying, and so I just kind of wanted to emphasize it. I think there's just a lot of overlap in how you encourage community members of all shapes and sizes. And that sounded very like DNI shapes and sizes, but that's not what I meant. I meant like the kind of work you want to do shapes and sizes. Like I think that the way to encourage that engagement is literally the same. There's extra stuff, right? There's the encouraging the blog posts of how I did something neat and cool, and like that as absolutely things we should do as well. But I actually think the overlap is probably like 80-85%.
That's fair. I'm sorry. Like, was that just your bird on your monitor pecking at the camera? Because that's amazing.
The bird is amazing.
She's sitting on my webcam. She is as dedicated, like she hates my webcam and keeps trying to destroy it. She's learned to climb up her cage and then jump on my monitors and then walk over and fight my webcam. And I'm trying to like minimize this. Please don't chew on that. Come here.
I was right there with you, Phil, until like the last 15 seconds. All of a sudden, like I saw the beak come down. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, she thinks it's real funny.
It's amazing. I mean, I think it's pretty funny too, but it's not my webcam that's getting destroyed. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's good. I mean, that's honestly, I think that's a great point, Phil. So what if we,
like most companies that have great communities have SLAs on PR review time, on issue review time, right? Like that, like alone would make a huge difference, right? I would show people that they were willing to put the engineering time, not into building my one-off feature, but just to helping me engage, right? Yep. And like, again, I'm in a very, 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 very privileged group here, right? Like I'm not talking about me. I get to go to the PR meetings. Of course I can get my PR reviewed, right? Like I am the exception to the exception to the exception to the rule in most cases here. But like, and also I have commit access, so I'm even more of an exception, right? But like most people don't have what I have, right? And so I'm taking myself out of my privileged point of view here and talking about everyone else. And like those people don't have a great way of getting their PRs reviewed or their issues looked at. And so getting SLAs around that, which is really fucking hard for Progress because there's such a huge backlog, to be clear. I'm not claiming that this is a trivial thing to do, and I don't want to trivialize it. But I think that kind of work addresses both the things that David's talking about and the things that Corey is talking about in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and it would be great. I think I mentioned this before. It would be great to have similar calls, and it doesn't need to be weekly by any means, but at least maybe monthly with inspec or server or workstation, just to kind of be able to have the community do feedback like, hey, there's this thing that we've been trying to deal with. And I mean, I've been trying to do that on Slack, but that's only so much. And I know time zones are going to be a bigger issue with some of those teams, but it helps. And having maybe Kaya there or someone else there would be really good. Because I really have enjoyed the infra side, that weekly one at least, you know, because I can kind of say like, here's this thing, or like, I know what's going on with this, I can help you with this, and it helps you in return.
Okay.
Well, that sounds like office hours sessions, kind of.
Well, not, it is sort of in a way, right? But office hours might be, this is like if I'm understanding what Phil's saying, especially what Lance is saying correctly, it's more like a subset or like an office hours adjacent activity. Because as opposed to being a people submit specific technical questions, how do I solve a thing? It might be more of a contributor type thing, right? Like what's going on, what's broken, what needs to get done. Can we get some visibility on this particular thing? I know you've got 500 PRs to look at, but can, you know, I mean, MITRE's a great example. Like there's only so much the team is able to manage. So maybe bringing in MITRE and getting Kaya or me or someone else internal who advocates for the community to moderate, and having MITRE be able to say, we get it that you're overwhelmed, but like, hey, these 5 PRs are pretty damn important. So can we talk about them and like prioritize them and figure out how to prioritize that backlog? Because you're right, Phil, the trouble is, it sounds great, but I mean, and if I could wave a magic wand and say, you're right, dude, like starting next week, we're gonna offer an SLA, like we're gonna have a 2-week SLA, I don't know what it looks like, an SLA, and we're gonna at least respond to you. I mean, now we could put in place we'll at least reply to you by X date, but that doesn't mean we're going to give you anything close to what you want or what you're hoping for in that SLA, right? Because we're so far, like we're so deep in it. But I mean, I'll tell you, like, now this was a while ago, back in, it's probably December, when I was talking about a lot of these kinds of things and what the community and what this group has been sharing with me. And I was talking to Ed Kiesling, who you'll maybe recall is like my new boss, who's the new VP of engineering over all of RBU. He's not new to Progress, but he's new to Chef in the last few months. And Ed is all about wanting to find ways. Now, he doesn't necessarily understand or know the way to do it, but he does believe it's important to re-engage. That's a major thing for him. He wants to see ways that we can help the community be more effective and how we can break down these hurdles. And he wants those things. We were talking about trying to find ways to give better visibility, better transparency into what the process looks like and where is your PR and when will be, like, those are things he wants to do. Now, I will tell you that since then, I think there have been several other things that have come up internally that have made his life very challenging on a variety of fronts, because there's just a lot of moving pieces all the time around here. And I think he's gotten more visibility into like just what that means with Chef. I don't know if he necessarily fully comprehended how complex of a problem that is. So I think, you know, he's spent a lot more time with George, for example, and Gavin and Brian Loomis and others. And I think he's starting to get a much better picture of like what it means when he says that and where our starting point is.
Well, I mean, even for example, like George and Thomas are working on primarily, as I understand it, for the last, couple months now, getting all the build pipelines to work so that when you send a PR, like they actually feel confident that it's not going to break things when the tests pass, right? Like, you know, like something little like George or Thomas writing a blog post that's like, oh my God, we're doing all this work on the build pipeline so that 2 months from now, like contributions are easier because someone can just approve your PR if it looks right and the tests pass and feel confident that you're not going to break Hypux version 7 or whatever crazy ass shit is out there, right? Like a lot of this stuff we know if we're in this meeting or we know if we're in the PR triage meeting, but like the rest of the community just sees their PR set, right? Like I think you're right. Progress is doing the work, but no one knows they're doing the work, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to say that, like, and you have to say it more than just in the community channel that we're already in because we're the ones who are in it. Like, but you're trying to attract the people who are not in the community channel or are in the community channel but haven't been on Slack in 9 years or whatever that looks like. Right. So like how do you get out there and blog post and tweet and do I don't know, what's the new hotness today, Mastodon posts, or whatever that looks like, and get that out there so that people know that you're doing the work. And I think this is the critical part, put a timeline on it. Okay, we're doing all this work on the build pipeline so that we expect that it'll be really easy for us to accept PRs. Cool. Does that, like, is that next month? Is that next year? Is that next decade? Like, what does that look like? Like, we expect to have this done by March. Like, if we do not have it done by March, we'll come back with another blog post with a status update, right? Like, and holding yourselves accountable to something like that. But I see the work and I tell people in Slack, hey, it's coming. But like, why do they believe me? I don't work for the company. So I think, you're right. The company's doing the work, but nobody knows the company is doing the work.
Yep.
Fair. I think that's really fair.
It's really, really, okay, yeah. Okay, well, the good news is this part of the meeting is being recorded and we'll go back to that because like, I'll bet that's something George would be happy to write. Like, honestly, if he can find the time, he would do that.
I mean, even if we like sit, even if we have a conversation in which he talks about it and then I go back and write the blog post, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying if it doesn't work out from a time perspective because he's busy and it's not something that he can do,
Yep.
But
that's not going to fall under the other. Like, I'm just thinking about it. It seems like Progress, the corporation itself, tends to be a little bit more sensitive to anything that may look bad or not so good. Like, I mean, we just had this internal discussion about logos and stuff like that, and they were very picky about coloring and what logos are approved for use and customer facing things and community related things.
Yep. Well, that specific thing, allow me to put on my lawyer hat, but not our lawyer hat for 1 second. That specific thing is very, very important because of the nature of trademarks and how they work. And so like, if you screw that up or you put the wrong things that like, it actually really matters. So things like colors and what logos look like and what we put in the stream of commerce and all are actually really important in terms of protecting our intellectual property. So that's actually really, really important. Progress is not the only company that's like that. I mean, if you asked, Phil and David, like, what happens if somebody doesn't want to like open Microsoft Paint and just kind of roughly approximate or put together a couple pieces of the Facebook logo that's good enough or make something that like, and then like put that on a banner, or, or that doesn't match the right colors and is often like the wrong Pantone, Facebook corporate would freak out. Like it's,
I get that on logos, but then like even what images you use in your slide decks and stuff like that. Like when we were talking about the old school ice cream truck, chef ice cream truck, that kind of thing.
I handle that by just doing whatever I want and saying I'm sorry later. I know this part of the meeting is being recorded, so whoops. But like honestly, like that's how I handle that part. I don't have access to our social feeds. Like I actually don't have credentials to our Twitter account or to our LinkedIn account or anything. I do have it to the LinkedIn account, but I can't post, and I don't post from our social. I post from me. And so I have a little bit of buffer. But yes, I wouldn't ask everyone else to put themselves in jeopardy. Like I know the risks I take on when I do those things. And so like, I'll take that on me and I just try to do the right thing. David in Canada, what's up?
And again, sorry, this one jumps back a little because the threads move around very fast. But on the matter of SLAs, I think it's a good idea. One practice that I found in the past that's kind of helpful for this is, okay, so we've got a big backlog and we know it goes back. And you say, well, right now, the unofficial SLA, like right now, the oldest pull request that's in Chef is one of Phil's goes to June 2020. But you say, okay, well, the unofficial SLA is going to be 6 months after that. But you treat it as a ratcheting function. You say, this is now the line we have drawn. Because if you never draw a line, well, what's an acceptable SLA? Well, we can say that this is unacceptable. So we already know, like, okay, well, there's a line there. And you just start pushing that over as you start building momentum in addressing that backlog.
Yeah, Chef actually did have SLAs, and if you poke around our repos, you'll come across a few of them where the README then says, you know, SLA of like if her issues is 14 days to at least acknowledge it, that we've looked at it, stuff like that. With the turnover of employees and all the lack of knowledge of what's all out there and where and everything else like that, a lot of that has kind of fallen by the wayside, and so yeah.
We can set different SLAs for different repos though too, right? Like something that is in core chef or core inspec. Like if we can't at least say that we know that you submitted something within like a couple of weeks and we don't even like, dude, what is wrong? Like that doesn't mean we fixed it, but that's different from maybe some ancillary library that doesn't get a lot of attention. One of the things I hear from George a lot, and I've been hearing for months, is like, dude, Strauss, we've got like hundreds of repos and half of them like nobody ever looks at because we don't even know what's going on with them. And half of them are like, there's so much. It's like, well, okay. But some of them are important. Like they're all important to somebody. And some of them are important to everybody.
And also, like, as I said, even in Chef issues almost never get looked at.
Right. And that's a whole different problem, you know, like that, and that's an important one. So
and Projecta and I were talking about trying to.
Else, or did you not pull it down?
What? Sorry.
No, I'm trying to decide if David's hand was up a second time. Now I'm self-conscious about it.
I was putting it back up because a lot of people in here, so I just wanted to. So if someone in the community was to build, say, a dashboard that shows like these issues haven't been addressed, like these SLAs are not being met, like that's a way for the community to give back, but it also draws visibility to, okay, well, these SLAs aren't being met.
If somebody in the community who
I throw it out there just so that way I don't feel obligated to do it. But
well, if somebody in the community happens to want to publish tools that help hold progress accountable to, I mean, now we haven't made any commitments at this point, but like if we could make some commitments and then somebody has a tool to like actually shine a light, like a sunshine law type thing, like, are we meeting those commitments? Nobody in the community reports to me. So like,
well, I think that's a great idea. And I also think that there's other tools that would make a big difference. I mean, Thomas and Projecta and I have been talking for a long time of like, it is not entirely clear all of the repos that the client team is responsible for. So we like make a rough effort to go through like mixlib CLI, mixlib config, mixlib log. Jesus, there's like 20 of them that we like try to occasionally go through if we sort of catch up at least to where we were on Chef and Chef Ohio. But like it turns out that like what the stuff with the client team is responsible for, and the server team and the inspect team and the docs team are like all in the same org by definition, or mostly in the same org. So it's really hard to get one dashboard of all of the PRs that you are responsible for. And if we could have one PR or one dashboard that just showed us what we were responsible for in one view, that alone would be really freaking useful. Right. Because like having to remember to look at 20 repos is fucking hard. Like humans are bad at this. So yeah, I think there's lots of tools that could be built if the community wanted to build them. And maybe one of the things we could do at a hackathon, Jeff's favorite word, is to just come up with a list of tools that we would love to have exist. We're not saying we're going to write them, and we're not saying the community has to write them. They're just in an issue somewhere of like things that might help the community if someone wanted to build them.
I know at one point there was a repository that was maintained of who was in charge of which projects and such.
It still exists. The problem is it's like a markdown file and it's hard to like, you know, it's not, it's almost always out of date, and it was even when Chef owned it.
Yeah.
But yes, there is that. Let me see if I can find it.
Can we? Okay. So I've never been to one of your weekly PR review meetings. So I assume like, I don't know what I'm going to do there, how I could benefit that meeting. Like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about, but would there be benefit for me to either join one or for us to schedule an out of band one with the sole purpose, and maybe you already do this, but to get the same people in the room who normally do the weekly PR reviews, and then to Lance's or whoever's point earlier, do it for the other products, you know, core products too, like do it for Inspect and Hab and anything else, but to have a purposeful strategic meeting among that PR review group to say, all right, today the goal is not to review any PRs. It's to talk about holistically, how are we going to make this better, where people who are part of the engineering team who are responsible for it internally, and people from the community who have a vested interest in seeing us stop dicking around, right? Sorry. Like get together and purposefully have a moderated personal discussion, just like, we're just gonna spend an hour this week talking about that. Like, how are we gonna go forward with this? Because like, we're chipping it away at it every week. And it's great that we have these meetings, and we appreciate that the community members are willing to do it. And the community appreciates that we let you all still be a part of it or whatever, let you all, which is, I can't even believe I said those words. But like, that's great that's happening, but it's really just chipping away, and we need it. We're never gonna be done. And so we need to define like what done can look like, so that we can then start a new era of like how we do this more productive going forward. And like, maybe we just need to have a meeting with those people in the room, like Phil, but also George and Mark and others, to like just have the conversation about like, where are we going from here? Like, what are we even doing, guys? Because we need to have a plan about like how we're going to tackle this mountain, because it's a mountain. Maybe we can just schedule that meeting, whether that's one of your weekly meetings and we take a week off from actually resolving any PRs, or we just schedule one for that goal. But like, if you all externally are willing to be a part of that, like I can push through that internally, and I'd be happy to be a part of that conversation. I'm sure
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
And then like, and maybe we have to continue letting infra be like the sort of canary, you know, to start it, to like, let's see what that conversation goes like for a little bit. And then as soon as possible after that, as soon as we have like, does this work? As soon as possible after that, schedule similar things and bring community members like Aaron and others from InSpec and whoever the right people are from HAB, and like do all those things with those teams as well, and say, we need to start getting those in place. We may have more resistance there because those internal product teams don't have the same experience of like having that expectation laid on them, but maybe they should. So that would be great. We didn't even, it's 1:03. You all have saved me because I didn't have to have the hard conversation. This is awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to
give us the TLDR of the hard conversation.
Here's the TLDR. Which product team does own Knife?
Client.
Okay. So we traded Vladimir Tarasenko. No one on this call cares about that except for me. Okay, that's why you're hearing dings, because now my Blues hockey thread is like going nuts, and both of my children are going to cry tonight when they get home, and it's going to be ugly, like ugly crying. Okay, I will hold off my ugly crying until this is done. Okay, the TLDR version is, 1 week ago today, I believed very strongly that 1 week ago tomorrow, I was going to have a purposeful, really useful conversation. We were going to nail down very specific dates and be ready to go, so that when we had this meeting today, I was going to say, these are the dates, this is what's happening. Coming full circle with the last hour worth of conversation, and some of the things that was hard about running community in Chef, and even more so in Progress, is that like, everyone has a seat at the table, and people keep coming in and saying, well, wait, I need to understand what's going on now, because this impacts me and my team too, whether that's PMK, sales, all the other things, and they all want to be involved. And it's like, this is not a sales activity, right? This is not a sales play, this is a community play, but they do interact with each other. And as you'll recall from last month, part of what's enabling us to have these community summits is that we were looking at having co-located events where we also have a product and more customer-centric thing going on at the same time alongside us, so that like we can reduce costs, share budget, especially because a large amount of my budget, almost all, does come from the field marketing demand gen like corporate team. That's just, at least for this year, that's how that is. And so there were some wrenches thrown on Friday because there were some concerns because of what we were just talking about earlier about education around what community means, and like, well, should we really have a community event alongside a customer event? That seems strange and difficult, because like they don't have the same goals and objectives. Like, so now we're back to educating some people. Like, no, they really do. There's like a 90% overlap in what the objectives are. They're just different types of activities, but many of the goals are the same, and successful community events benefit all of you salespeople and product marketing people. So we're back to educating there a bit, which was basically all of my Friday, all of my weekend, and basically all of this week for me. As of last night, I think that we've addressed a lot of the concerns that some of the people on the sales side had. We had an internal, I don't know if the external folks who are on the call know this, but we have an internal community guild call every Wednesday. So the people who were on that call who are here today saw me practically in tears yesterday, like, guys, I'm like dying here. But I was working all night with Mark Traster and with the folks in Ireland and stuff. And I think we are aligned again. What it does mean is that we had a little bit of delay, and I don't want this to get delayed in terms of discussions with the CAC until next month, because we're still trying to still do events in Q2. It's like, I can't wait to like start pushing this thing until our March meeting. So we are now pushing very hard. I had VP level and above trying to push some folks to say, hey, like, the advisory council's meeting is this Thursday. We need answers before then. That didn't happen. But there's a lot of fire being lit under a lot of people, which is good, like really good. So what I can say is that I think we're still on track for some of what we were saying last month, which is an event in Seattle and an event in Germany. There's been a lot of pressure now to also have an event in London. Like, there are people on the customer side who feel it's very important. So now it's like, well, are we going to try to do a London event and prioritize that and put a Germany event in the fall and do a London event in the spring? Are we going to try to do them back to back? There's been some people in Inside Progress who are like, well, if you're flying over to Germany anyway, just do them both. It's like, well, do I have manpower and budget to do them both back to back in the week? If we do, great. So that part is fuzzy. But we think there's going to be something in April and then something in May. I wanted to give you specific dates today. I can't. I am going to really start raging at people internally if I can't give you dates like in the next 7-ish days. Like, it's going to get uglier and uglier because I'm going to get meaner and meaner internally to people. We're going to have to do it out of band because I can't wait till next month's CAC to discuss it with this group. And there's a lot more people who care about the CAC than are in this call, even half an hour ago, and people didn't have to drop. So my hope and goal from the folks here is, and I kind of said this already, is as we have those, my hope is that I'm going to look to our internal customer success team, and then also to the people who are external partners and community members who care. Corey, dude, this is the shortest I know how to talk, man. I don't know how to use fewer words. But my goal is that we can have a massive push to promote and encourage people to just come and be a part of it. And we're going to work on writing up maybe some copy on like why it's valuable to community people to want to be there. And then if we can get some external push along with the internal push to like really have people want to participate, if it's successful, if we get 100 people to show up and we have a successful turnout and we have a good, put the repo list, okay. If we have a successful couple of events, one in the US and one in Europe, and we can go back and say, look, all these people came and here are the outcomes and what we got out of it, I think we will have a lot less resistance to do them a lot more frequently going forward. So my hope is that once we can move forward and I can get a firm commitment from people internally on we're doing it on this date, let's go, that I can introduce some of those people internally to some of the people external to make sure that they like know all the people in the community who are helping to make this possible.
What do you anticipate being first out of those 2-2.5 dates or 2.5 cities?
I expect right now that Seattle would be first.
Okay.
I think it is easier for us to mobilize.
Can I beg you to not only not conflict with Scale, but provide at least a week's buffer in between Scale and that?
When is Scale?
The second weekend in March.
You'll have more. There's not a chance in hell that I can have an event in the first or third week of March. So you're in good shape. What is interesting is that what impacts me is that literally last week, Microsoft, months later than they usually do, probably because of all the pressure and heat they've been taking, announced they are going to have an in-person global MVP summit for the first time since pre-COVID. We all assumed the summit was dead. And now not only is it not dead, but they're going to do it in person in Redmond, like April 20th-ish. So at least from my perspective, now I have to be in Seattle that week, but I have to be in Redmond that week. So we could try to tie it on at right before, right after, because I'll be in Seattle anyway, and like there'll be other community-ish people, maybe at least a few who are around, but also that means there'll be like no hotels in Bellevue at least available at all, and prices will be up. So, but it's not going to be any sooner than that, man. Like it won't screw a scale. But I do think that Seattle will be first, and then something in Europe, whether that's London or Germany or both. What D Sarsfield, who owns my budget, would like to see is sometime in May for those. We know if it gets beyond that, then we absolutely hit summer holiday time in Europe, and we'll have a lot harder time getting people there. In which case, we push an event to, you know, early fall in Europe. But we'll see. So that's the deal. So I thought I was gonna have more information, and then like I had a whole lot of pain for the last several days, and now I think we've resolved that pain, at least for now. And I have very strong support from multiple VPs that like enough is enough. We need to move on this. And so that's the good outcome of my week of pain. So yeah, that's.
Thanks for, you know, re-educating people over and over again. And it's the shitty truth of being in DevRel, but we appreciate it.
And over and over. But we're getting there. All right.
A dumb question. One of the things that I did when I was doing DevRel stuff at Facebook was like write down like I basically wrote down a lot of what you're trying to explain to people internally on internal pages, and I was like I had a long form version, I had an FAQ version, I had a 2-sentence version depending on who I was talking to and what I thought they would read, and they were just on the wiki under like, you know, why is community important, and like I know that people don't read stuff very often, but sometimes it's really, really helpful to constantly be able to point people to docs when you explain it to them, so that they can, at least once they've heard it, can go back to those docs later. Yeah. I don't know how much of it that sort of stuff you have internally, but it certainly helped me a lot.
We have some, and actually one of the outcomes of this last several days has been more of that. So it's a work in progress. It was really thrown together quickly. Mark Traster, who is a VP, and he runs product marketing for Chef and for our BU, who is a huge advocate. Like he's a strong ally. He was on the phone with me until like 8 or 9 o'clock last night, just trying to do this because he knew that like I was freaking out, because like, man, I got to be able to tell them something tomorrow, and I don't know what's going on. He actually started throwing together like a whole PowerPoint of stuff. But you got to understand, it's not just like, why is community important, Phil? Like a lot of the people have never been involved in commercializing an open source product before. A lot of the people have never been involved in it. You know, like the Telerik and Kendo portion of our company has a long history of working with developer type communities, but the community that exists in the products that come out of what used to be Core A, like the products that are now part of Infra from Kemp, or our WhatsApp Gold product and OpenEdge and those sorts of communities, they have communities, but those communities are primarily, they're support communities, right? They're running forums and stuff. Whereas Chef's historical community is a lot more like a developer community in the sense of events and in-person gatherings and open spaces and like people working together and like all that sort of stuff, and communal development and those things. A lot of people who come from other parts of Progress have never experienced that. So it's not just saying, here's why our community is important. There are slides in this deck we've just built the last few days that are like, here's what open source software actually is, guys. Like when you talk about commercializing software versus open source software, it's like, no, you're still commercializing open source. And we're like educating at that level for some people. You know, here's why the community is actually not like juxtaposed against our customers. Like it's that sort of thing. Like there are a lot of false dichotomies. I use that term a lot internally. There's a lot of false dichotomies built up in the minds of people internally between like things are either this or they're that. They're good for our business or they're good for your community. There are customers or there are open source users. They're like, and there's not a lot of understanding still of like, it's not an either or, like it's an everyone trying to march forward together to make it better for everyone. And it's that level of education that we're working on. But we are built, but
I think the
you're
same
right.
thing is true, right? The more you can write down that in
Yep.
like, especially in an FAQ format, where like if you get the question 9,000 times, we're like, well, but don't those people use sync and therefore are not our customers? Like if you get that a question a lot, like make that a FAQ in the FAQ and you can point people to that. And if you link people to specific questions, like make those, A names so that you can href to them, like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It just helped me a lot. And I'm not saying it'll help you, but
It might.
useful. Maybe useful.
It may be. At least for some people pay attention, right? All right. Like always, I've kept you all long. But now at least you got my 20-minute TLDR.
Cool.
That's what I got. So thank you all as always. And thanks for sticking it out and being there. I'll get to be together in person with a bunch of you, hopefully, over the next few months, like in one spot or another. That's the goal. Whether it's in London, Seattle, or Kansas City, like things will happen and I'll see you all. So,
Sweet.
or Frankfurt or Munich. I don't know. All right.
Cool. Real quick. I just sent out a link. So basically, this is really a TLDR for the podcast. And actually I wanted to give a little bit of context, but I don't think I have time. It's all good. These are the 10 episodes that we're going to start with for the OnPrem Matters podcast. And I've got some, like the first couple are mostly internal folks, but feel free to get in where you fit in. If there's something that you are passionate about, there's a topic that you are that you would like to talk about and that we could discuss or debate, feel free to put your name next to or in a guest slot if you can comment on there. And I know there's some of them that might have NA as like a guest, but that's really because it was a situation where I started running out of people. So if there's something that is that you have expertise in or you have opinions on, feel free to just jump in. And the target record dates are flexible for folks' schedules and stuff. This is just kind of like a shoot for it date.
Well, and it's not being live streamed, right? So
No.
Okay. Hey, did you also put this blurb and this link in Slack? Because people will lose this chat. Okay.
I did.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, I requested access because I was interested in the first one.
Sure.
And I might have something new to add to that as well, which I've sent links to the thing to a few folks, but it's still in the process of getting cleaned up. Phil knows what it is.
New to add to the list of topics?
Yep.
Sweet. That's awesome too. So. Okay.
I'm just excited to listen to this. I'm just excited to listen to the podcast.
Oh yeah. Well, that's great too. Please share whenever, so I'm not sure if I shared the actual document that has all of the other things on it. All right, I've got you access, Phil. But we're gonna go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeart Podcasts. So that's like my goal for where we are gonna release them. And please share, because we're building an audience from scratch. We're gonna start with these 10 episodes and then see how it goes. And definitely, if there are others, please feel free to add to the list. But we're gonna start with the episodes, see how it goes, and then evaluate for a season 2.
Are these in order of when you think you're going to be working on them?
Yes, but like I said, this is all something that is fairly flexible. So if there's something that is, if there's something that's interesting to you and the recording date just doesn't work out, feel free to hit me up on Slack.
I'm really looking. I saw that there's one that how to survive your company's compliance audit. And like,
Yes.
I wish this already existed because I would go listen to it like immediately.
Claire and I are in the thick of that right now on a contract.
Oh.
I mean, we're obviously like in that contract representatives of Chef, but yeah, we are.
Oh, wow.
Chaos.
It's a
So that
time.
would be great for y'all to be. And then, so you guys
I
don't
just want
know.
to listen. I just want to hear it. I just want to know how I'm supposed to survive this, aside from like covering my head and like trying to like block out the noise.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about you, Stephanie? I mean, I know, look, Lyra just wants to listen. What about, do you want to step out in front of everybody and start sharing your findings at least? Like,
Yeah,
tips.
I mean, I'm down to talk about you know, what I understand and what I have the scope for. I feel like it might go beyond the scope because I definitely focus in on mostly just inspec and how to get those things rolled out and like what's available right now from the community and from Chef.
Mhm.
But I mean, I know that, you know, an audit is really a lot larger than that and does go beyond. So there's this you know, sense of like, oh man, like even with all these tools, you know, it's still like heads are on fire. So I'm definitely willing to talk about that side of it though.
I think it'd be cool. I don't know if this is a thing, but like we were working with our customer success, Jeff from Chef. And we finally got access to like the compliant, I think their profiles, not all of them are like remediation, but like the STIG remediation stuff and like the cookbooks that are kind of wired to sort of do that. And there's not a lot of like good documentation on how to actually use them. That would be cool to like, I feel like that's like a sidetracked thing. I would like to understand like, okay, well, how can we convince audit teams like that are external to us to, yeah, they come in, they throw all the stuff around and they dig up all the dirt and then they leave a mess. And it's really hard to like categorize and like distribute all of the tasking. I feel like that could be something that Chef would excel at. Like if you automated that whole debacle, is like, okay, well, yeah, you scan, but what do I do with these results and who do I send them to and what profile is this system even supposed to be scanned against? And like that, I feel like the tooling from Chef could very much streamline, but I don't know how to convince like our internal audit people to try making my life easier.
And for context, like we're on a government contract, so this is, you know, everything is very like you know, legacy systems, things that they're using. So we're kind of like the one team that's really sunk our teeth into Chef, and it's kind of percolated in terms of using infra and inspec on the daily to manage things. But when it comes audit season, it's like, what? Like we have our own auditing tools and we're going to scan you against this and that. So it's definitely a different environment than I think.
And we need you to verify these results, but you don't have access to the same tools that our auditing system does. So
yeah, so it's definitely a special case.
Who even owns this system?
In like a well-run ship, you know?
It could definitely be more efficient. And I feel like automation could very much help that.
What was that, Kaya?
I'm sorry to talk over you. I thought there was a pause, but I think that was just my network. I was like, who does have a well-run ship? Really? You know? So that's why I think these types of conversations are going to be useful and helpful to folks, because these are the type of things that, you know, the community goes through. So
I don't think I've ever seen efficiently run ships, but I've definitely seen ships that were a little bit faster and more agile.
Then
Not not to make a pun, but like more maneuverable definitely than this program. But I don't
Yeah,
know,
but,
it's
Oh, sorry.
convincing it's convincing higher ups that I think is like the struggle.
Okay.
And I was just gonna say, Kaya, there's also a one for automating security tasks in your DevOps pipeline.
Okay. Yep.
Given the nature of the work that we do, like the sensitivity of the data that you work with and what the applications do, security is like super central to every part of our development, operations, every pipeline has that integrated. So we would probably also have a little bit of insight about that.
Nice.
Or
So
try
can I
to
sign?
how to remember, how to tell developers to remember to not output their sensitive config files to the command line.
That one right there, because a lot of people forget.
Drives me
Okay,
insane.
can I sign y'all up? Like, no, okay. Stephanie, not Lyra.
Yeah, I'll help write things, but I'm like back end. I'm very much like back end, like behind the curtain.
So, Stephanie.
I do not like being observed.
Lyra can help me prep.
I do not wish to be acknowledged. I do not wish to be perceived.
Sweet. That works. I mean, this one we actually so this one was one of the ones I thought I could just use, that could just be like a kind of interview style where we don't need to necessarily have two people. So, or we could just have, myself and another
Yeah,
person.
and we don't even do cloud stuff too.
All right. Look, so it's open.
Is there, I was looking through the titles, is there ever like, I didn't see one that's like, I feel like there's an ongoing debate, and maybe this is just on the Fed side, of like the benefits versus risks of cloud anything.
Ooh.
From like a security posture, from like a attack vector, from like basically being able to audit your own stuff.
Okay.
I feel like that would be, I feel like I would be interested to listen to that, like pros and cons of cloud versus on-prem.
All right, that sounds like that could, yeah.
The cloud is just someone else's computers. And I hate when people call it a cloud, like it's a nebulous thing, and it's like literally just someone else's computers. Like someone else's servers, someone else's data center.
Sarah, don't take away the magic of the cloud.
No, it's not magic. It's
I'm putting it on there. I'm gonna just put it on there.
Okay,
and
like cloud versus on-prem, because like there's stuff with like that, and like HA with like, I don't know, was it Automate HA that came out recently?
Yep.
That's like
high availability.
we like HA, but we also like failover versus true like disaster recovery, like
Gotcha.
planning for what if everything goes up in smoke. Because like Chef is very good at like that was one of the things at previous programs where our disaster recovery was Chef, was being able to, okay, we have this environment configuration, and we have that separate from where our sites that are deployed to are. And if just so happens that one of them becomes a crater, then we have the ability to like, as soon as we have new hardware, we can spin up brand new replacement environment in a timeline that is acceptable to the customer. And that was like our disaster recovery. And I feel like that's it's really hit or miss. Like some programs really care about that, and some really are just like, what do you mean disaster recovery? I'm like,
Right.
well, like what, like right now, all of our storage is just toasted and they're still working on it, which is why we're here. Like, but like there's like Chef couldn't do like the disaster recovery for like what the issues that we see on this program. Like, I'm not sure it would do it, but definitely like the benefits of having a fully automated end-to-end, like if your environment is gone, like Chef and Terraform and like not necessarily vSphere, but like I guess vSphere is okay. Like
So is that
having access to that stuff like makes it really easy to spin up everything.
okay?
But I feel like that could fit into like the on-prem, like, because like if you have cloud, yeah, you're not likely to have the crater problem,
Right.
unless the whole data center where you've outsourced your computing to becomes a crater because someone forgot to turn on the air conditioning or left the door open.
In which case somebody's got to pay a lot of money. So you're good.
Yeah. So like that's a benefit of cloud, I guess. But I don't know what this bird's doing. Sometimes she just gets on my shoulder and like wings out.
Cool. I'm definitely added cloud versus on-prem. I gotta flesh out the title and like the description stuff, but yeah, definitely like whatever. So those types of things are things that I like to, feature. So the things that people feel strongly about in kind of polarizing ways are things that, would be great for debate. So, I mean, and I guess since we're here, so we've got moderated debates, moderated discussions, and then like interview type of formats. And I think, there's a place for each. And what we're kind of lacking right now are those moderated debate type of conversations. So the more the merrier. Feel free to suggest.
Oh, and just for my 2 cents, that last one you had GitLab versus GitHub, GitLab every day.
I like GitLab.
Just because
Same.
it's on.
Agreed. I 100% agree with that. Also, because
You can have GitHub on-prem too, just to be clear.
I mean,
can.
not that I've seen on any contract that I've been on like that.
I ran it for 2 years at Vicarious. You can certainly do it.
What?
But does it have the nice buttons to
Yep.
merge things?
Exactly the same thing. Like it's just GitHub Enterprise. It's just locally hosted. And like GitHub CLI works with it. You just have to define an environment variable to say like my server's over there. It works fine. We ended up moving to cloud because it turns out that like hosting your own infrastructure is almost never what you want. And like I wanted to work on robotics and not manage my GitHub server. So like, and I wanted to, like we also moved to like Gmail because the guy before me was like, I'm going to run my own mail server. And I'm like, dude, we're not an email company. We're a fucking robotics company. So I moved everything to Gmail and like, whatever, like as much infrastructure as I could get out from under me, I did. But, like if you have good reasons, you can totally do it. Like you can, and it's exactly the same price. In fact, it's exactly the same price to buy GitHub Enterprise on-prem as it is on cloud. And if you buy on-prem, you get a license for both. So like you can just kind of go back and forth as much as you want, and it works pretty well.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I've also never been at the decision-making level. Like I come in and they have what they have and I parachute out after like a couple months. But
we do have like internal GitHub, not on-prem, but our like the contracting company, like Tap Here we have our own GitHub, like or at least we definitely have our own.
We have like our own thing set up.
Project and organization.
Yeah,
like on there, but I haven't used it in a while.
Yeah, you can have an organization. You can also have a there's a superset to organization. I forget what it's called. But you can also just have your own on-prem server as well.
Yeah, I
I
don't
have
think we're
lots of
doing on-prem for tap here.
The
So
thing I like,
contract definitely
this
is
is like,
on-prem, but that,
Right.
yeah, it does come with its own fun times of like, whenever patching happens, sometimes the person doing the patching the server doesn't like being rebooted and it doesn't come up right, and then no one can get into GitLab.
yeah, I mean, I had
a
to
bad day a couple of weeks ago with this.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
had so many
patching
things.
GitHub's a pain in the ass, and it's just one more thing you have to run. And then also, if you have some external cloud provider doing a CI thing, now you either have to poke holes in your firewall or you have to play other games, right? Like it's tricky, right? Like
Yeah.
we
Or like,
migrated
hey,
we
we
migrated
have
all our
sensitive
Jira stuff
data.
external.
This isn't allowed to be exposed to this kind of a network, and
Yeah.
all kinds of
On-prem is
rules.
always more tricky than letting someone else run the infrastructure for you. And that doesn't mean there's never a good reason. It just means that like you're signing up for a lot of pain.
Also worth
True.
pointing out is then every grievance against that platform is suddenly your problem.
That part.
For sure.
Love that.
See,
Love
we
that
could just fill out the entire podcast of community folks, and like we could have just put, we could have just started or get a clip from this debate. And put
I
it
will
on the
happily join this
podcast.
debate for a podcast.
I can also send the list, if it's chill with you guys, to Chris and Keith. They're on the cab.
Yeah.
They might be interested.
They are
Well,
about
I think
to.
that's fine. Like, I don't know, Jeff, do you think that's fine? You think that our corporate folks will will
I would really hesitate. Like, I know that Chris Todd is corporate, but like I would hesitate to categorize him that way.
I was
feel
talking
like
about our corporate folks.
Oh, okay.
You
I was gonna
like,
say, like, I feel like that's an insult. Like, to
well,
attack a
yeah,
person.
no, I'm not.
Because they're on the other one, like the advisory board instead of the council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
a bunch of community stuff. And I mean, I'm 25. They've been in the game a lot longer than I have. So, you know, they they know what's up a little bit more too.
I think that could, I mean, as long as, so yes, but I gotta make sure that it doesn't step on any toes from from like on Michelle's toes, I guess. That's who I
Yeah.
would, right?
Like skipping chain of command type thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
don't
then,
really
you
have a
know,
chain of
it's
command.
like,
Okay.
there's
Wow.
like this whole,
We're very highly matrixed. Which is actually what makes it complicated for us. Because nobody actually reports to anybody else. I mean, that's not entirely true, but sort of.
How do you live in the ambiguity?
it's really, really hard.
Sometimes it's fine. But sometimes it's
I
difficult.
don't like it. I like the box. I like the boxes. I like them organized. I like them clearly labeled in a nice readable font, where the ones and the L's and the I's are all very obviously different, and the zeros have a slash through the side.
Yeah, that's not the world I live in day to day. Let's just say
Yeah.
that.
But you could make it that way.
I could not, actually.
You
Not,
could,
not in this role, I could not. But
I mean, you could just like make a Google Doc. No one can stop you from making a Google Doc and say, this person owns this thing, and this person does this.
But everybody has.
I will try. That will only work if I'm allowed to have your bird like peck their eyes out when they say no.
You know, I don't want to train her to do that. She's already like starting flight training, and she's using it for evil. Like,
Sweet.
she's decided that jumping, her cage is like, so my monitors are in front of me. That's the webcam. Right behind that, about 1.5 feet behind that, is her cage. She has figured out how to climb on top of the cage, jump onto my monitors, and then fight the webcam. But then also tries to get on my laptop and take off the keycaps. Like, take them, throw them, break them. Your keyboard doesn't
That's
deserve it.
crazy.
Like, yeah,
On,
no, she's
on the bright side,
definitely like a
they only
toddler
live
that
for
can
like
fly.
75 years as toddlers.
Oh
so
yeah, she'll
fine.
only be around until I'm like 70.
Right. So you'll be fine.
This
And
is
by then you
fine.
won't care what happens to your keyboard. So it'll be okay.
I love my keyboard. The one that she can't destroy is like she can't break this one. Although it does have, I don't know if you can see it, the little break it sticker. Like right here.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still have those, but like it's like a really old chef sticker that I've had for years. And it says break it, and then it has, God, sorry, I can't get those close enough to the monitor. Come on, do the brightness.
Oh, those are cool.
No, we're not gonna, apparently. We're gonna minimize that and see if it helps anything. Can you see that at all? Good God. There we go. It was in focus for like a second.
No, it's just fuzzy. Take a
Come on.
picture of it and then just
Okay.
put it in Slack. Or if you want to get into the Slack, give it to Stephanie and she will put it in Slack.
Yeah, I'll throw it in the Slack. It's one of my favorite stickers that I still have from like when I first started learning Chef years ago.
This makes me want to get us all together to like coalesce all of our various chef swag from the years and like make a web page of like every chef sticker and t-shirt that ever exists. I must have 20 chef t-shirts and like
I have
100
no
chef
authority to
stickers.
approve that, but I approve.
I would just like to do like a whole sticker exchange because
Yeah.
like I have quite a few stickers that are like on things. Like I have my little koala
Yep.
on a rocket.
We have a sticker
and
exchange
then
table at KCDC. Like
have
usually,
this
just
one.
that everyone throws their
I
stickers.
love the rainbow chef sticker. I have that one on my laptop.
I want that sticker. I don't know if you can still get that. Kaya's working on
have,
making some
like,
new
2 of them.
swag that includes like old school chef things on it, or like combination of chef and progress things potentially, depending on what. But it sounds like she has free reign to do it until someone really yells at her. But like the people who normally order the swag have told her that like she does not require corporate approval to order swag.
Well, if you want, I
have
can
a budget.
pick up all my
All
bag
of
of
the
stickers and
stickers.
send them to you.
All
Okay,
of
that
the
works.
stickers.
I just put in the chat there, apparently some of the old chef folks put together a website with all of this chef swag. I'm gonna add it to the community advisory council too. but-
Sweet.
Would people other than me and Kaya wear awesome Argyle chef socks?
Dude,
Because
I wear my Argyle
What?
chef
Wear
socks all
Argyle
the
socks.
time.
there are
What?
Argyle socks?
Yes, I have like 3
My
different
husband-
Argyle patterns. That was the thing that Chef used to make like every year as swag.
What?
Right, like that's definitely a thing.
Tight.
I'll be right back.
Okay, but are they like
They can't
low
print.
cut? How tall are these socks?
They're probably not low cut. We could probably make low cut ones.
Are they like mid calf?
Probably, I would guess that. That's what most of like the sponsor socks are that I tend to collect. Today,
Like if I wear my hiking boots, can you see the pattern over the top of them? Because
They're
that is,
dress
There you
socks.
go. There you
They're
go.
ooh, okay. How tall are those? How nerdy can, okay, yeah, cool. I'm in.
And, nah.
Very nerdy.
today,
yeah,
today
I
I'm
actually have
wearing
2
socks
pairs
from
of
years ago at
these.
DevReach, which was okay. I'm not that flexible. I've like watched Stephanie do back bends on the floor during the advisory council September, and like
I
I can't get my leg up. But you just said you're 25, so
I
like
have a bad back though, so I
Well-
have to stretch it.
these are socks that came from DevReach, which is the industry conference that the Telerik part of Progress runs, but they've run it for years in Sofia, Bulgaria. But those are the ones I grabbed today. I basically never ever wear socks that aren't socks that I got from somewhere because I like fun socks. That's like I wear
I
them every
like
day.
fun socks too, but I have texture problems.
Yeah, no, if
So,
they're not
like-
comfortable, I will take them from everyone. I'll put them on and see if they fit me comfortably, and if they feel good, and if they don't, they go away. But I have like 2 full drawers in an armoire that are just stuffed with socks, but like I gathered from places.
I
It's
just
like-
collect stuff and bring it back to my husband, and then he wears it all.
Right?
I would
I
do
gotta
that
jump off,
except-
guys.
Phil,
Bye.
that's what I see you. It is 1:45 Central, so like, you know, if people have places to go and things to do,
Totally
That's-
get it.
Should probably
Yeah.
drop too.
I'm gonna go make a fourth copy of the day, and then I'm gonna don't know what I'm gonna do next.
Oh yeah, Oslo, babe. That sounds good. I
Hmm?
think I'm gonna get myself some coffee too. I said do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but in Spanish.
But in Spanish.
That's
You
what
know,
she said.
I speak like 5 languages, and strangely, Spanish is not one of them. So I know
We're not counting computer languages, right?
we're not.
Okay.
No, Russian, English, Dutch, and bits of Korean and Italian, and bits of Hebrew. So 6. Yeah, and JavaScript and C#, but not Ruby. So there you go. Sorry,
Wow,
I know.
ridiculous.
Yep. Okay,
Bye, guys.
bye.
Bird's finally being quiet.
Yes.
See you all later.
Bye.